Well, if you love movies, you're in good company now as Sky Premiere presents Barry Norman's Film Night.
Hello, and let me tell you straight away what lies in store for you tonight. Samuel L. Jackson is menaced by sharks in Deep Blue Sea. John Gordon Sinclair returns as Gregory with not one but two girls. And we look at the expanding world of DVD. OK, well, let's not sugar the pill. Let's just say straight out that Rennie Harlin's Deep Blue Sea is a piece of cheerful tosh. Great special effects, natch. What else is new? Daft plot, dumb dialogue, and characters who wouldn't cast a shadow if you turned them sideways. But it'll keep you amused, and though this is hardly its purpose, have you chuckling happily from time to time. Saffron Burrows, one of those gorgeous scientists known only to Hollywood, is given 48 hours to discover a cure for Alzheimer's. Piece of cake, because in her elaborate floating laboratory in the middle of the ocean, she's already on the case, using the brains of sharks for her experiments. But these are genetically modified sharks, smart sharks, sharks with attitude. And when a helicopter carelessly crashes into the laboratory, causing a total breakdown of every system and trapping the occupants underwater, the sharks fight back.
I can't get a pic. Tower, we're in the wet lab. You got a visual? Copy. Can't get anything. Do you copy? Go into backup. Got it. Shut down.
Somebody, please, tell me what that is. Come on, you can't help it. Come on. Come on, let's go. Go, go!
These occupants include Samuel L. Jackson, the tycoon, who is funding Burroughs' experiments, Stellan Skarsgård, another scientist, LL Cool J, the resident cook, and Thomas Jane, a shark wrangler, which I should have thought was a job suitable only for people very tired of life. However, even before the helicopter catastrophe, one of the sharks has snacked lightly off Skarsgård's arm, and now it and its two colleagues set about dining off everyone else. This, naturally, obliges several members of the cast to leave the proceedings early, nearly always a smart move in a Rennie Harlin film, while the rest scuttle about in the flooded underwater laboratory, pursued by the seriously pissed-off predators.
Careful now. Come on, Bird. Come on. Please, baby. Please, baby. See Daddy smile? Come on. Bring your feathery...
Out of the frying pan and into the microwave, as it turns out. Well, if you forget the daft premise, ignore the clunking dialogue and concentrate on the action, there's a fair bit of fun to be derived. Harlin is good at action. He's good with digitized sharks, too. It's just human beings who seem to baffle him. Burroughs' strictly illegal experiments on the sharks make her the villain of the piece, but then you knew she had to be the heavy because she's British and nobody else is.
That shark broke through that door?
I expect so.
You expect so? Just what the hell did you do to those sharks?
Their brains weren't large enough to harvest sufficient amounts of the protein complex. So we violated the Harvard Compact. Jim and I used gene therapies to increase their brain mass. Larger brain means more protein. As a side effect, the sharks got smarter.
All right, people. These sharks are thinking hard and clear. So here's the riddle. What does an 8,000-pound mako shark with a brain the size of a flathead V8 engine and no natural predators think about?
Oh, no, waiting around here to find out.
Now, you see how that works? She screwed with the sharks, and now the sharks, they're screwing with us.
And after that, we move on to a look at the top 10 films in Britain. At 10, A Midsummer Night's Dream, here given the star treatment with Michelle Pfeiffer and Kevin Kline. 9, Tarzan. Swinging into the chart comes Disney's version of the Edgar Rice Burroughs story. 8 is The General's Daughter. John Travolta investigates a brutal murder in a military thriller. 7, Eyes Wide Shut. Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise in Stanley Kubrick's tale of jealousy and deception. 6 is Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. A pretty feeble effort, and yet it's been 13 weeks in the chart. At 5, analyse this. Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal on top form in a stylish comedy. 4, The Haunting, a ludicrous remake of the 1960s film with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Liam Neeson. 3, Big Daddy. The goofy Adam Sandler adopts a little boy to impress his girlfriend. At 2, Runaway Bride. Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. Not bad, but Pretty Woman at 8. And at number 1, American Pie, the latest and so far grossest example of teenage gross-out comedy. I really can't understand how that film could prove so popular. It's rubbish. Anyway, Such a Long Journey, based on the Booker-nominated novel by Rohinton Mistry, is set in Bombay in 1971, when India was on the brink of war with Pakistan over the establishment of Bangladesh. Roshan Seth plays a Parsi, a middle-aged bank clerk, who's asked by a long-lost friend, Naziruddin Shah, to help him launder some money. Shah, who claims to be working undercover for the government, says the money is for anti-Pakistani freedom fighters in Bangladesh. So with the aid of an intermediary, Om Puri, and a bumbling colleague, Sam Dastor, Seth sets up a secret and illegal bank account.
You two joined row at the same time?
Yes. Wherever Billy Boy goes, I go. He can always depend on me. His friend is my friend. And his enemy has to answer to me. Whoever harms him, I go after him. Whatever it takes. Knife, gun, my hands, my teeth.
He's very lucky to have a friend like you.
Hitherto, Seth's life had revolved around his work, his home, and his defiant son, Rajesh Herji. But now one mild act of lawlessness changes his perspective, making him more aware of what's going on around him, the political corruption and bureaucracy and the insanitary conditions of the streets. The novel, so I'm told, because I haven't read it, was imbued with irony. The film is not, but it is full of rich detail that evokes the heat, the feel, and even the smell of Bombay.
भाई साहब अंधा हो गया क्या चलो यार नहीं नीचे भगवान का फोटो है भगवान का फोटो पैर दिया तूने सॉरी क्या है भाई बहुत पाप क्या होगा चल थोड़ा पुण्य का काम कर डाला सोच कर रहे हो चढ़ावा चढ़ाओ भगवान पर ओ भाई साहब हम लोग इसको पूछते और आप इसके ऊपर पैर दे के आ रहे सॉरी सब मैं मानता हूं गलती हो गई चलो चढ़ावा चढ़ाओ जल्दी करो इसके ऊपर पैसे डालो जल्दी करो जल्दी करो हां अरे क्या करता है भगवान इतना सस्ता नहीं है और पैसा डाल अरे और पैसा डालो ना जल्दी करो अच्छा ठीक है जाओ जाओ समझता नहीं है क्या जाओ सावध थैंक यू
Can I ask something? You can ask me anything, but I don't paint bathrooms and I don't do personal portraits.
A host of subsidiary characters, that pavement artist, for instance, who later turns a mosquito-infested wall into a sacred shrine, and an old woman who practices black magic to bring the errant son to his senses, wanders through the action as Seth begins to worry about the true motives of his friend Shah. This is a gentle tale of friendship, betrayal and faith. Seth and Puri are excellent, and the Icelandic director Sturla Gunnarsson brings the observant eye of the outsider to the teeming life of a city which is itself an important character in the film. Well, still to come after all that are Gregory's Two Girls and a report on the growing market of DVD. So do rejoin me after the break. Welcome back. We've been waiting nearly 20 years for Bill Forsyth's sequel to the delightful Gregory's Girls. So the question is, was it worth the wait? Well, if you had to leave Gregory's Two Girls a little after the halfway mark, you might think so. But alas, if you stay to the end, you wouldn't. We rejoin Gregory, John Gordon Sinclair, aged 34, now an English teacher at his old school, and obsessed with the nubile 16-year-old Carly McKinnon, the successor to Claire Grogan in the school football team. She is the first of his two girls. The other, a woman actually, is a fellow teacher, Maria Doyle Kennedy, to whom Gregory can't quite commit.
Open that door and talk to me like a man. I know you're in there. It's your last chance. After this, I'm through with you. How could I expect you to love me? You can put me for a friend when you treat me like this. You make me walk the night like this. You do want me, don't you? You do. Just admit it. You're not going to get by your boyish charm much longer, my lad. Your clock's running too. I'm a giving person, Greg. If you're not letting me give, that's cruel.
One of Gregory's problems is that his potentially dangerous McKinnon fantasy looks like becoming fact when she urges him to arrange a clandestine tryst. But McKinnon turns up accompanied by a friend, Hugh McHugh, for it's not Gregory's body but his liberal teachings that have stirred her. And now she and McHugh believe that the local computer factory, owned by Gregory's old classmate, Dougray Scott, is exporting instruments of torture to repressive regimes in the Third World. There's no real evidence for this, but the smitten Gregory agrees to help them investigate. Now, up to this point, Forsyth and his film are on great form. The characters are well drawn and the set pieces and quirky dialogue are often very funny.
How come you've got so much time for just two pupils? What about all the others?
Comes and goes, comes and goes. You know, they all need special attention at some time. Right now it's Frances. I won't deny it, I have a lot of time for her. Her talents, and Douglas. You know, in a case like this, extracurricular, the pupils lead and I follow.
So what were you doing last night?
Well, last night was pretty exciting, actually, because Frances had more or less promised us. You see, the thing is, I've never actually seen Frances's beaver. Frances's beaver. Of course, I didn't mean Frances's beaver. Badger. It's Frances's badger. It's, you know, her beaver. I mean, it's a bit of a mouthful. To a badger, that's a mouthful, not beaver. It's a tongue twister. Try and get your tongue around Frances's badger, eh? Well, I mean, mouthful, of course, is a turn of phrase. It doesn't actually imply eating of any kind or munching. Certainly not munching.
Well, that was a lovely sequence, but soon thereafter the plot takes over. A silly plot it is too, and the mood is destroyed. Even the climax in which Gregory and McKinnon hijack a consignment from Scott's factory lacks any sense of danger or tension. If we'd expected this to be the film in which Gregory grows up, we were wrong. It's the film in which Gregory regresses, and that's far less interesting. Good performances, though, from John Gordon Sinclair, who neatly recaptures the younger Gregory's shambling gaucheness, the very promising Carly McKinnon, and Scott and Kennedy. It's just a shame that Forsyth didn't concentrate on Gregory and the girls and elbow the rest of it. But now for our report into the rise and rise of the video recording system. Remember Betamax? Much better than VHS, wasn't it? But never mind the quality, feel the width, and it was VHS which became the market leader. Now, a couple of video generations later, DVD, or digital versatile discs, is, or are, all the rage, providing film lovers with director's descriptions of the action, additional scenes or alternative cuts, and other exotica. Georgie Arnold reports.
Year 1 of DVD is almost equivalent to year 5 of CD.
He's growing at
an amazing rate that's far outstripping people's expectations and people's predictions.
It's mainly driven by the big releases we've probably seen in the last few weeks, the likes of Bug's Life and Titanic.
This is where we first met.
Like a CD, you can randomly access any particular part of the film.
This is where we first met.
You can have alternative endings to the film. For instance, Thelma and Louise has an alternative ending.
Directors are getting very much involved with it in terms of providing and allowing additional footage to be used. Armageddon was apparently, Michael Bay said that he'd made it with DVD in mind because special effects and action movies do look particularly good on DVD. The studios love it because it gives them a chance to sell their catalogue again and sell movies that people already own on VHS. The directors and the creative talent love it because people will look at their movies again in a different light, maybe.
The Exorcist DVD is a very good example. You get the movie with a crystal clear picture, you get a lovely digital surround sound, you get the making of documentary, you get all the missing scenes, you get an audio commentary by William Friedkin talking you through these things. The movie comes on a small CD which doesn't take up very much room, and if you just want to watch the movie, fine. But if, like me, you're a bore and you want to learn a bit more about behind-the-scenes stuff, it's all there as well. Personally, I would rather watch The Exorcist at home on DVD in the comfort of my home when I can watch it without having some guy shouting got la gear, when Reagan's head goes round.
Home cinema's really taken off in the last few years. What we have in our basement is a genuine home cinema system. So we have an 8-foot wide screen. So it seems as big as a cinema screen would seem, but it's in your own home.
What DVD does is it enables the film enthusiasts, which I include myself in, to get all the stuff they want, but it's also simple and straightforward enough to just appeal to the Joe Schmo in the street who just wants a copy of the movie that won't wear out after he's played it 3 or 4 times. If DVD has done anything to remove the stigma of home viewing, I think that's a very good thing.
The DVD offers the viewer a range of choices, from extra scenes and trailers to alternate endings. But for the passengers aboard Titanic, there must surely only ever be one way out.
Iceberg, right ahead!
This year, Oscar voters will be sent DVD copies of eligible films, which is fine. But what are they going to do if they like, say, film A, simply because of an alternative ending unseen in the cinema and available only on DVD? How do they vote then? Simple, I suppose. They do what they usually do, hand the voting form to their Puerto Rican maid and ask her to fill it in. But now to Head On, set in Melbourne and made by the Australian Greek director Anna Kokinos. It tells of a day in the life of Ari, a young Australian Greek, played by Alex Dimitriadis, as he struggles with the problems of being Australian, Greek and gay. The conclusion he arrives at is hardly uplifting, but then his 24-hour journey towards that conclusion isn't uplifting either. Ari is angry, Ari is bitter, Ari's at odds with his immigrant Greek parents, but then he's at odds with practically everyone else as well. Okay, he gets on with his sister and brother, but that's about it. He's a rebel whose life appears to be circumscribed by pop, drugs, and furtive sexual fumblings in public lavatories, alleyways, or up against a wall, usually with rough trade. And his friends, homo or hetero, are no more appealing, an aimless bunch who moan about their limited lives, but don't seem prepared to do anything to improve matters. Ari spends much of his unedifying day with an outspoken, cross-dressing friend, Paul Kapsis, who seems bent on self-destruction.
You Greek?
Sure are. Just 2 Greek girls looking for a good night out.
What are you? Turkish.
Your great-grandfather raped my great-grandmother.
You like Greek music?
I love this song.
I don't even know what this song's about. You know this song? The road has its own story. There's one word painted on the wall.
Freedom.
They say the story was written by the youth.
Very romantic.
Meanwhile, Arri has arranged a later assignation with the blonde Australian Julian Garner. This assignation and its unexpected outcome are the climax of a film which thinks it's being bold, but is actually pretty sordid. Most of the characters, including Dimitriades, are unsympathetic. The young are whingers, their elders crassly insensitive, and the authorities, i.e. the police, brutal. It's hard to feel much warmth for anybody. One interesting point, though, with its fairly explicit sex scenes and full frontal male nudity head-on reinforces the impression given in the recent Romance that henceforth young actors auditioning for roles will have to worry seriously about the size of things other than their pecs and biceps. So then, to our competition. Last week, I asked you to identify 2 films and name the connection between them. The films were Bullitt and the new version of the Thomas Crown Affair. The connection was Steve McQueen, who appeared in Bullitt and the original version of the Thomas Crown Affair. The winner randomly selected was Darren Ingram from Cardiff, who wins the usual prize of a month's mega pass to Virgin Cinemas. And you could win one of those too if you can tell me what is the connection that links these 2 films, and it's the film title we're looking for. Answers, please, to Film Night competition, B-Sky B, Grant Way, Isleworth, Middlesex, TW75QD, or, if you prefer email, filmnight@bskyb.com. In the cinemas right now, I'd recommend The Last Days, a fine documentary about the Holocaust, the re-release of Ken Loach's classic Kes, and Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick in Election. Next week, Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy co-star in Bowfinger, and I'll be looking at Disney's animated Tarzan. But for now, and until the same time next week, goodbye.